What's up, guys? It's Jake Finch here with Pit Pass Network. Today I'm bringing you another episode of Fast Talk with Finch. Today we're going to cover all the things that happened out in Austin, Texas this weekend at Circuit of the Americas for the Eco Park Automotive Grand Prix for the NASCAR Cup Series. It was our first road course of the year, so all eyes were on it. There's a new, obviously we've seen the new package that they ran at Phoenix. This one was similar to that package, so it was different from last year. We all know how the short tracks and the road courses were last year with this next gen car. They weren't the greatest races. I mean, COTA was actually pretty decent. The end was, but this weekend it was a good race. We also had no stage breaks at all. They didn't throw any cautions for the stages for this weekend's race. That's what they're going to do for all the road courses. Remember, we have 6 road courses on the NASCAR Cup Series scheduled nowadays. This was the first one, so we got 5 more, and they'll still pay stage points, but they won't throw a caution for the end of the stages. So obviously that opened up the book for crew chiefs and engineers to make some strategy calls, and we had some differing strategies, which was really cool to see. Really refreshing to see. I like watching races like that when strategy is kind of king. But to start off the weekend, once again, Byron, man, he's on fire this year. That 24 car is probably the quickest car week in and week out so far this year. He's definitely having a breakout year. I think this is his 3rd or 4th year in the Cup Series. So this is huge for him. I think obviously he's the championship favorite. If I had to pick a champion right now, it would be William. He's doing a really great job in that 24 car, especially with all the stuff that's going on with the penalties looming and everything with Hendrick Motorsports going forward. But I mean, he's lights out right now. So he started on the pole on Sunday. He was fast all weekend. Tyler Reddick. He was really quick on Friday, and definitely was kind of the guy that everyone had their eye on all weekend long in that 45 car. He was fast there last year in the 8 car when he drove for RCR. He won 2 road course races last year, Road America and Indy. So obviously, he knows how to get around a road course, especially in this next gen car. But he definitely showed it. He started second on the day, but he basically was the guy that dominated all race long on Sunday. There was 4 other guys in the race that a lot of people had their eyes on. One of them was Jimmy Johnson. This was his second race of the year in the 84 car for Legacy Motor Club. He kind of struggled all weekend. If you kind of looked at where he was in qualifying at the end of the day, I think he started in the back, and obviously he was taken out early in the very first crash that happened early on in the race, like lap 1. So he had a tough day. Hopefully, maybe we'll see him again before Chicago. I know Chicago is his next scheduled race for that road course. So hopefully we get to see him again soon. But there was 3 other guys in the race that everyone had their eye on. 2 of them came from the Formula 1 side of racing. One's a champion, world champion, Kimi Räikkönen. He was driving the 91 car for Trackhouse Racing in the Project 91 deal that they got going on. And the other guy was Jenson Button. He's a F1 legend. He's a veteran of that series. I think he said in an interview that he hadn't raced in like 3 years, but he was in the 15 car for Rick Ware, but that was basically a Stewart-Haas car. So it was a pretty competitive race car, especially for a road course. And then the one guy everyone had their eye on was Jordan Taylor in the 9 car. He was subbing for Chase Elliott, who's still suffering from a hurt ankle while snowboarding out in Colorado. There's really no news on kind of what's going to happen with him. He was in the booth on Sunday. He might have said a timeline, or he gave an update. I'm not really sure. I was really more paying attention to the race than really listening to all 5 guys that were in the booth, which that was crazy. I don't know if you guys like that or not. But anyways, Jordan Taylor was he was impressive start of the weekend. He was really impressive. I think he was really quick in practice. He qualified 4th, so that was really cool to see. Obviously, he has a lot of track time at COTA in a similar race car because he's been testing the Garage 56 stuff that's going to run the 24 Hours of Le Mans that with Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson's going to be in that car as well. I believe Jordan is going to be like the backup driver, which I don't really know how all that works. I haven't really ever paid attention to the 24 Hours of Le Mans. But Jordan was really quick. I thought that he could be someone that could possibly upset once he kind of got comfortable with the racecraft of everyone else. I feel like he could have probably snuck in there for maybe a win or a top 5. He was at the point where he was going to finish in the top 10 if it wasn't for all the late race yellows, and he kind of got knocked around on a late restart and kind of fell back to 24th where he finished. But once we got into the race, we had an early caution, like I said, lap 1, I believe. But then after that, Tyler Reddick just put on a clinic. He was on a differing strategy. I think he was on a 3-stop strategy, where like William Byron was on a 2-stop strategy. So that's where the strategy game was kind of being played, and it was very interesting to see how that was all going to play out. Like I said, the no stage breaks opened that up, so there was all types of strategy going on. I think one team that was really using the strategy to their advantage was the 3 team of Austin Dillon. They were on the same strategy as the 45, which was a 3-stop strategy, and was able to get some stage points. They finished second, I believe, in stage 2. So that was huge for that team. They were going to probably finish in the top 10 if it wasn't for a late yellow, and they got knocked around on a late restart as well, which we'll cover that in a minute. But as time went on in the race, obviously it was present that Tyler Reddick was probably going to win the race. He was the guy to beat. He was out front. I mean, he was blistering fast. No one could touch him, and it was kind of cool to see. Kurt Busch was in the booth, so it was kind of, hearing him get emotional there at the end of the race was kind of, heartfelt, and I kind of enjoyed hearing that from Kurt. I know how hard I know how bad he wanted to be in that race car. I know he's not done, or he kind of had to. He was forced to retire because of concussions, but I mean, if he was able to get back in the race car, man, I bet he could still get it done, especially in that 45 car. They've been really fast the past 8 to 10 months. So, like I said, the strategy game, it got down to the point where it was going to be a fuel mileage, and I like fuel mileage races. I think they are entertaining. I don't want to see them every week, but I think sometimes they are refreshing to see, and especially on a road course. And it looked like there for a little bit that we were going to get into a situation where it was going to be a fuel mileage race. The guys were saving fuel. They were like 1 to 2 laps short. Some guys were saying they were good, like the 99 and the 1 were saying that they were good on fuel. So it was going to be interesting to see if that was true or not. But then we got a late race yellow, and that changed the whole scenario. And then we kept getting yellow after yellow after yellow because guys, right now the talk in the garage is that there's no respect out there on the racetrack. Kyle Busch has said it. Denny Hamlin has said it. Joe Logano has said it, I believe, that they believe that there's no respect out there. And a lot of people have pointed fingers at the one car of Ross Chastain of being the guy that has no respect, that just will drive through you no matter what. But we've seen it there. Those last 3 or 4 restarts in turn 1, people just plowing through each other, causing cautions, and I know Tyler was probably sweating in his helmet, thinking, "Dang, man, I just want to get this race over with. I've been dominant all race long. I don't want to lose it because of a late race yellow and getting plowed through in turn 1." And I was really pulling for Kyle Busch to win. Obviously, I like RCR. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I'm a huge RCR guy, but I was really hoping that Kyle could have got around Tyler there at the end, but Kyle raced him extremely clean. It was good to see that, the respect that those two guys have for each other, and I think it was really cool for Tyler Reddick to beat his old car, beat his old team that he had left last year. But Then after the race, we had we seen on Twitter that Daniel Suarez was pissed off at his teammate and Alex Bowman. There was a video that surfaced of his onboard of him coming to the pits at the end of the race, where he plowed through his teammate to catch up to Alex Bowman, where he ran in the back of him a couple times while going on pit road, where there's a NASCAR official standing there where he checks lug nut. Well, probably not checks lug nuts anymore. That's where they used to check lug nuts at. But kind of just telling where people need to go, where to park their race cars at the end of the race. But there was an official standing there, and to me, man, that's stupid, man. You can't be doing that. Ty Gibbs got in big trouble last year at Texas for doing something similar on pit road during the race. There's talk that there probably will be a fine come Suarez's way. I like Daniel. I think Daniel's great for the sport, but you can't be doing stupid stuff like that. He gets mad at people, but he kind of does the same thing that he gets mad at people for sometimes. But it is what it is. I know it's part of racing. I know he's heat of the moment stuff, but sometimes you just got to use your head, because stuff like that could have turned into something even bigger, and definitely I know he doesn't want that. The sport doesn't need that, and I hope NASCAR does, hope he does get in trouble for it, because we don't need to see that. We don't need to see guys just plowing into each other on pit road while there's pedestrians walking around. That's like a big time thing that happens at the end of the race. There's people constantly walking, media, crew members, officials. People are just everywhere. So that's the last place we need to have contact. If you want to hit somebody, hit them out on the racetrack, preferably during the race, not while they're unbuckling on their cool down lap. But anyways, I'll get off that high horse, and we'll move on. So that was basically it for COTA. A lot of guys said it was really hot there, especially in the cars. There was guys that were, wore out. They were having to sit down after they got out of the race car. And I was listening to Austin Dillon on his radio, and he was talking about where his feet is being really, really hot, or where his legs are. So obviously there's still some heat issues, it seems, with this new next gen car. So hopefully maybe later on down the road they can figure out a way to cool them down a little bit. But for the rest of the week, the biggest thing is there's a Hendrick appeal coming up on Wednesday, the day you guys get this recording. There's going to be a Hendrick appeal for their penalty. So we'll get to figure out what NASCAR decides on that. But other than that, we'll get ready for Richmond. Richmond's a great racetrack. I prefer it at nighttime, but the past couple years they've been running this race during the day. I don't really necessarily think it's a great race during the day, and especially last year's race. The next gen car was absolutely terrible. It was a snooze fest. I fell asleep like 4 or 5 times watching it. Not gonna lie, but hopefully we see that these changes that they have made with this car for the short tracks show up at Richmond. Hopefully it's hot and slick. Hopefully it's a hot day, and the track kind of gets, we see guys slipping and sliding. So hopefully we see that. Last year we seen it come down to a strategy call. Denny Hamlin took tires and was able to rally back and win the race. That was the most exciting thing of the whole day of that race. But he's a guy that you need to look out for if you're making your fantasy lineups. I'd put Denny Hamlin in that fantasy lineup. I'd put Martin Truex Jr. in that fantasy lineup. And definitely I would put William Byron, because he's on fire right now, in that fantasy lineup. But that's all for me this week on Fast Talk. Thank you guys for liking and subscribing the video if you have. If you haven't, please do. We want to grow this. We want to make these better. Go check out pitpassnetwork.com. Read all of our great articles our writers write. And we'll be starting a podcast soon. So be on the lookout for that. But thank you guys. And I'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend.